Okay, I'm going to show you how to shade your face, your self-portrait now using the oil pastels that you've been given. You should have already completed your practice shading done in pencil so that you're able to figure out the pattern of where the light and shadow is. It's going to be should be similar to this, where the light is coming straight at the face from flash photography. So the sides will be darker, the sides of the jaw, the sides of the temple, sides of the nose, underneath the mouth, underneath the nose, around the chin, in the eye sockets. And then obviously the ears will be a little bit darker, sides of the neck, and your hair darker as well. So when you get ready to shade, I will post some samples up on Google Classroom, but you can take any approach you want. You can use whatever colors you want. You can do a realistic colors, maybe something similar to this, where you have a realistic base skin tone. Some liberties have been used in doing some of the shadows. Obviously, it's kind of it's focused on a certain part of the face, and the hair has been left rough. But you can see where there's some pinks and or purples, light violets and blues and so forth that have been used in some of the shadows. Some of even the green of that paper coming through. Or you can take a very creative approach based on what is called fauvism, where you can be really colorful with the colors that you choose. What's really important, what's more important than the colors that you choose, is the value of the colors, how dark or how light the colors are. As long as the color is dark enough to get the intended effect, it doesn't really matter what the color is. Generally, what happens is in your areas where the side facing the light, or that is closer to the light source, you have some warmer colors, and then in your shadow areas, you have cooler colors that are used. And then obviously you can choose colors that are similar to the hair or not similar to the hair. It's it's just dependent upon the values. I'm going to take an approach that's somewhat realistic. There's a couple of different base skin tones that you can use. There's this color that looks more like a tan or a beige, and then this color that looks more like a peach, depending on the type of skin tone you want. You could even go with a very pink, as long as you added a lot of white to it. And let me just say a little bit about blending. You're going to see me do it as I go. But you want to work from light to dark, and you blend your colors by putting one color over top of another. Let's say I wanted to start with this pink, but I don't want it super, intense pink, so I might lay down a very light base like that where there's lots of paper still showing through, and then I can go over it with my white and kind of blend it and get a very light pink. So if you want a lighter version of any color that you have, just lay it down just very lightly and then go over it. Check your white to make sure it's clean, it doesn't have another color on there. And then just blend it, kind of go in opposite direction of the strokes to kind of blend it all over to get a lighter version of that color. Or you can get a gradient if you want, just by going a little bit darker. Take your white and use it sort of like a blending tool to blend those areas together to smooth that out and kind of get a gradient where you need it. But we're going to use lots of different colors, and you can experiment with the colors. The nice thing is, once you have a color down, you can always go over that color with another color, like we learned with the colored pencils, to adjust that color or darken that color, and you can even lighten the colors. So I'm going to start with just this beige skin tone, and I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to start in the forehead area, and this was kind of my model picture of Leonardo DiCaprio. You can see it's lighter in here and darker towards the sides where the temple are, following the same kind of thing that I did with my drawing there. So I'm just going to lightly cover, and I'm going to even go right over the eyebrows, because you're going to want some of the skin showing through the eyebrows. And I can go over my hair a little bit. I'm not really worried about that, because the hair is going to be a lot darker. And I could really probably cover the whole face, but I'm not going to work the bottom part just because I don't want to get my hand all in the oil pastel that's down here. So I'll work kind of from the top down. So I'm just going to give it a light coat over the whole forehead area. And then I got blue on my oil pastel there. You can wipe it on your hand, you can wipe it on a scrap piece of paper, or you can take a paper towel and just kind of clean that off. And now I'm going to come in here and just make this real light in the center. And you're not going to see it a whole lot. So what I'm going to do now is start to darken the area to the left and to the right of that, so that highlight stands out a little bit more. And then I'm going to come back in with my white and then sort of blur the transition from the lighter area to the darker area. Okay, start to blend those things right away. You can always come in and adjust a little bit more. Now I'm going to throw in another color. I'm going to use this yellow ochre, or very dark mustard, brown mustard yellow. And I'm going to use that to get even darker over here in sort of the temple area. Oops, I got to look at my model, my guy that I'm using as a reference. And then I'm going to take some of my beige color, and I'm going to blend that into, so that I don't get that too intensely yellow. I'm going to blend that in. I might even lighten it a little bit more with my white, because it's getting a little too intense. And now here's another trick. What I'm going to do is, if you remember talking about our color theory, complementary colors, if I can find the color I'm looking for. Okay, opposites on the color wheel, right? They dull one another when you mix them. So I'm going to take this light violet, or purple. Purple is the opposite of yellow on the color wheel. And if I wanted to dull the yellowishness of that, I can take this light violet and I can go over that yellow ochre, and you can see how it sort of neutralizes that. Okay, I'll blend a little bit of it in there just to give some other color. Remember how we layered colors in doing our insects? It can be kind of interesting just to get those other colors mixed in there. And I'm just going to keep these colored pencils right in my hand, because I'm going to keep switching back and forth between them. You know, adjusting the light and dark as I feel is necessary, as I look at my photographic reference. See, once you get more oil pastel down on the surface, the nice thing about oil pastels is that you can layer them. You know, you can get it pretty intense and you can still layer them over top of one another. Let's take some light violet here, and I'll dull that a little bit. Okay, let's adjust that a little bit more. Okay. Now for reference, what I need is I have all these lights, and you're like, oh, it just doesn't look quite right. Let's start to add some darks so that we have sort of a frame of reference. Okay, nothing exists in a vacuum, right? Everything, and it's important to have context for something to have meaning and to be able to understand it or see it clearly. So what I mean here is we need some of the other parts of the face, some of the darker values, to start to see whether this is looking correct or not. So I'm going to start to plug in a brown here, start to throw in some of the eyebrows. And I might even start to throw some of the hair in here. And notice my directional strokes. I'm kind of going with the direction of the hair. Okay, what this does is it gives me a dark value so that I can kind of establish a better range of values. And once I have a dark next to my lighter values, I can better judge them to see whether they're too dark or too light or something like that. Let's see, I might even throw just a, I don't like how brown this brown is. I want it like a darker brown than that. And I could just use black, but I'm going to use some blue actually. Blue is the opposite of orange, but it's also the opposite of brown. I'm just going to throw a little bit of this blue in there. Spread it around a little bit. And then I'm going to come back in with my brown and blend that in. Yeah, I could throw a little more blue in there, but it's good to kind of just see a little few streaks of the blue just for color variety. Doesn't have to be perfectly blended. I mean, ideally you want to get rid of, eventually get rid of most of the white spots coming through, but if colors aren't fully blended, and if you just see little specks of color here and there, it adds a little flair to it. And if you have blues elsewhere, like in the eyes, it can help to kind of balance, color balance those blues and so forth. So that looks okay. Actually, I might go a little bit darker along the temples. Maybe I'll throw in a little, maybe I'll try a little purple. I think I came in too far with my hair, maybe, in my drawing. But throw a little purple in here just to make the temple area just a little darker. And there's sort of like these, his muscles in his forehead, they must be like kind of tense or something like that. So I'm going to throw a little purple in there to kind of show where his skull is sort of popping through his, yeah, see, I can even scumble a little purple right in there even too if I wanted to make that a little bit darker. And then what I do is I just scumble that, just kind of skim it over the surface, and then I can kind of blend it in with my flesh tone color to kind of blend that. Same thing with this, lighten it or fade it a little bit. Or I could do this yellow ochre color. Okay, I'm gonna leave that alone for now. So now I'm just gonna keep moving on, and I'm not gonna finish this whole face, so I'm gonna do kind of the same thing that I did up in the forehead. Start with a base, my base color, just lightly going over the surface. And I can even go over the lips a little bit. I'm going over the whole nose. It's okay. Go right down onto my neck. Okay, then I can just start to shade a little bit darker using just the same flesh tone to start to bring out some of the three-dimensional qualities. You know, like we did before, I can start to do the side of the jaw here, going around, just so I start thinking through and establishing those without getting too crazy with the colors yet. Going around the chin, doing that little butterfly or bow tie under the lips there. Going along again, sides of the jaw, do the sides of the nose, in the eye sockets. This just helps me to get a feel for my light and shadow. Start to establish all of that without committing to any other colors quite yet. And then I can start to come in with make sure that's clean. Start to come in with my yellow ochre. Darken things up a little bit. Maybe I'll give it a little more color on his nose. Because then I'm going to come right down the center of the nose with a highlight, blend that in. Okay, let's deepen that a little bit more. Spread that out, coming out of the eye socket. Fade the sides to the bottom of the nose, sides of the nose, bottom of the nose. And this is going to be, so, you know, the thing is these are not like the colored pencils, right? We don't have too much of a point on these. You can sharpen a little bit. If you have a pencil sharpener at home, you can stick them in your pencil sharpener and sharpen them a little bit if you really want some detail, but I don't worry about the detail too much. I sort of treat this as sort of like an impressionistic painting, if you will. Whoops, see I hit some red on there, but no biggie. And then, all right, so now let's take some of that yellow ochre. I'm going to go along the side of the jaw. And plus I'm going to be a little messy here because for the sake of time, I don't want to have you guys watch an hour-long video or anything like that. And then I just keep going back and forth. Let's see, you know, again, I want to lighten up the intensity of that yellow. I can go over it with my light violet. It also serves to kind of darken and blend that and enhance it a little bit more. And where's my, let's see, I'm going to go, now I can go a little bit darker here, and then I would come in and do kind of blend in the highlight on the cheek because the light comes in and it's really hitting this cheek area in here. Start to blend that. Okay, starts to smooth everything out, make it look more like a painting. You know, and then you can keep going over this. Okay, I can go even real dark along the edges. Take my purple. The only thing, if you're working with yellow, you could use blue, but you got to be careful because then it starts to turn things green. Okay, blend that with a lighter color. If I put in a darker color and I'm worried about it getting too dark, I could start to blend it with one of my lighter colors. You know, if that doesn't even get dark enough, if I want to come in and just go even darker, you know, take a dark brown, go over that. More purple. But hopefully you kind of get the idea, and you'll just keep going through that process. Make sure when you do your eyes, don't get too intense with the color. You might start, like say he's got blue eyes, right? I'll start with like a light blue, right? I'm leaving a little area where I'm going to do the black. And I don't want to do the black eyelashes. You got to really hold off on the black until last, especially around the eyes, because you don't want that black mixing in. So that blue is a little intense, so I'm just going to take and knock that down a little bit. I'm just going to take my gray. Or I could even take some light violet, you know, so carry some more of that light violet around. That could also serve to kind of lower the intensity of that blue a little bit. Then also kind of serves to color balance. I might take a little gray and throw that in the eyes, because a lot of times the white of the eyes are not perfectly white because there's like a shadow sort of cast there. So the eyelashes kind of cast a shadow over the tops of the eyes. Okay. And where's my white? White, clean white. Maybe blend that gray a little bit so it's a little bit lighter gray. Blend that in with a little corner of the white. Okay, once I get to that point, I'm happy with, let's put a little bit of, where's the little pink? Let's throw a little pink right in the corner of that little thing. Right in the corner there. Not too intense, but all right. And then lastly, now I can come in, and what's going to make the eyes pop now is kind of doing the eyelashes last. Put in the pupil. Do the fold line. If you've got a few late lashes on the bottom, you just got to be careful with that. You don't get too intense with those. And then you can go a little bit darker. Like if I wanted to take the black, well, I could do a few little bit of scumbling there perhaps under the eye, and then take my white and kind of blend that. It's not working too well. I'd have to be a little bit more careful. If I wasn't in a hurry, I would be. I can sort of blend some of that eyelash down a little bit to kind of create sort of a shadow. Like the eyelashes, like I was saying, the eyelashes cast a shadow on the eyes a little bit. There we go. That makes them a little bit darker. There, whoop. There we go. Okay. You know, so you keep shading, keep adjusting. You know, you want to make those eye sockets a little darker. Let's throw some purple in there. Get that a little bit deeper in there. And I'm going to wrap this up. I need to wrap this up because this video is getting too long already. But you just keep going back and forth with these colors, blending. You know, if you go in with a dark color, it's too dark, go over it with a light color. You want to blend with your lighter colors over top of your darker colors that you used. Establish your darks fairly early. But don't get too carried away. Be careful, like I said, around the eyes. And try to work from dark to light. Don't get too carried away, because if you start getting those darks, and then you start blending them where you don't want them to go. And the nice thing is you can always adjust things. You can make things darker. You can make things lighter. Just keep going back and forth with them. And if things get really bad, you can even take like a little knife and even kind of scrape off. Whoops, I'm getting real ugly with the lips here, but that's all right. I'm not going to worry about it too much. Do I want a little bit of red in there? No, I don't want it to look like, see right here with this, I went outside the lip because I got in a hurry. That might be something where I just kind of like scrape that off and then go back over it. Or who knows, maybe I could just color over that, get some color back over it, put some white over it. There we go, fix it up that way. Obviously I got to do my ears, do my hair. Even in the hair, you can even add, if you need some highlights in the hair, you can work around them a little bit, like when you start with your early stages in your hair. Same thing, you start light. You might figure out where you have some, some highlights in the hair, some lighter hairs, and throw those in. Then you can kind of go around those. So you got a bunch of highlights in there. Go around those, establish where your highlights are, deepen things where you need it even darker still, to make those highlights pop out, and you can even make those highlights, if needed, even lighter by using your white. Put in a few highlights wherever else you might need it. So that's the beauty of the oil pastels, is it allows some better layering of light over top of the darker colors a little bit that you couldn't quite get with the colored pencils. So like I said, you can take a realistic approach, or you can take a more creative approach with your colors. I'm going to put these up. You can even kind of just follow and try to copy these color schemes if you like. It's up to you, but hopefully you'll have fun with it.